All right, welcome everyone to our Conservation Career Chat. This is our second to last one. So today we're going to be talking with Katie Leware, who is a superintendent at Ponca State Park, assistant superintendent at Ponca State Park. So she will be kind of talking a little bit about her background, her education, kind of her path on how she got here, and some of the cool things that she gets to do up at Ponca State Park. So please feel free if you have any questions to either just unmute yourself and ask. This is kind of an informal thing here. Or you can also type them in the chat as well. So without further ado, I will let Katie discuss her cool career.
Awesome. Thank you, Monica. And thanks for everybody for joining. Like Monica said, I am the assistant superintendent out at Ponca State Park, so kind of in the northeast region of the state. And I have a PowerPoint here just to show some pictures so you don't have to look at my face the entire time. So I will share my screen. All right, and everyone can see that PowerPoint there.
Perfect.
Awesome. So like I said, assistant superintendent, Ponca State Park. So a little bit about that role. So if you, I am the assistant, so I am the second kind of in charge. And at Ponca State Park, we're unique where we have 3 superintendents. So we have a head superintendent, Scott Oligmuller, and then there's another assistant, Brady Peterson. And the 3 of us are the ones who kind of oversee everything, all the operations and things that happen at the park. So we'll get into a little bit more about what I do here at the park, but a little bit about me. I am originally from Orlando, Florida, and I lived there until I was 12. I grew up in Bellevue, Nebraska, so near Omaha. And then when I finished college, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and spent 4 years living in Georgia. And then while I was in college, I spent a little bit of time in Williamstown, Massachusetts. And after I lived in Atlanta, before I moved back to Nebraska, I spent a little bit of time in Moab, Utah. So my friends like to joke with me, where is Katie, where's Waldo? It's one of my favorite places, or I love to travel and do things like that. So you can see that picture of me dressed up as Where's Waldo for Halloween. Definitely one of my favorite costumes. But I really enjoy everything there is to be outside, fishing, hiking, exploring. So there's that. When I am not working, I love to read. I am close to 60 books for the year. So I've got a few more to finish up before the year, but that's my goal. I love listening to music. I listen to a little bit of everything. Name a small artist and I probably at least heard of them. And I really enjoy camping. And anyone who knows me loves that I love to watch soccer. So a little bit about me. The first state park that I visited in Nebraska was Smith Falls in Valentine. So Smith Falls has a special place in my heart. And I did not really that was the first time I ever went camping. And I was in middle school. So it's pretty cool about that. I took a pretty non-traditional path to get to my current position. A little bit of that is because I have a lot of interest in hobbies and I just like to learn new things. And so I worked at the Eastern Nebraska 4-H Center in high school. So in Gretna, Nebraska, that camp no longer is running, but SRAM has some big plans for that, I hope. So pretty cool there. So that's kind of where I got my start of teaching and enjoying nature. I went to Doane College in Crete, Nebraska with a degree in technical theater and a minor in religious studies. So a lot of people get a little bit surprised when I tell them that I don't have a background in biology or the sciences or anything like that. And then after college, when I moved to Atlanta, I did a service year similar to AmeriCorps called the Young Adult Volunteers. And I spent a year living in the city and working with the marginalized homeless community and building furniture and working in a furniture warehouse. So that's kind of a unique thing as well. And then I spent 30 days backpacking in Utah and carried everything I needed on that backpack there for 30 days and really learned a lot. I had never done anything like that before. And that's kind of where my mind started wandering of like, I think working in the outdoors and sharing education and outdoor skills kind of started. So when I finished up in Utah, moved back to Bellevue, Nebraska, and I got a job with Fontenelle Forest as an education assistant, and just continued to hone my skills for education and working with kids and adults, and teaching them skills. So you can see that picture there of me in a canoe with some of the kids from camp. And then I also worked at Tree Rush Adventures, which is a high ropes and zip line course in Bellevue. So again, kind of a weird path to get to where I'm at. But after all of those random experiences, learning leadership and exploring the outdoors and getting new skills, I found myself at Ponca State Park. So I have been in this position, the permanent position here as assistant superintendent, for about a year. I was in a temporary superintendent position here at Ponca, starting in April of 2020, right when COVID started shutting things down. So as an assistant superintendent, as a superintendent, things look very different now than they probably would have prior to COVID. We've all had to have these challenges and oversee what COVID has done to our careers and to our parks and things like that. But they've been really exciting. We've still been able to do a lot of really cool things, and I'm still learning very much in my position how to navigate that and to move on from that. So what I do as a Ponca State Park superintendent is I directly oversee education for the park. So our peak season is Memorial Day to Labor Day, and every day we do education programs, and we lead kayaking, we do fish seining, fishing programs, outdoor skills, you name it, we're doing a program. So I schedule and oversee the staff that do all of that. And then we also have horse wrangling at the park. And so I oversee all of our horse wrangling staff and things like that. So I'm on call every third weekend. And so there's things from fixing HVAC and heat, there's fixing breakers in the park. I fill in for housekeeping, you name it, I've done it. And so really cool things like that. You can see, we catch monsters, big fish in our pond. Pretty proud of that really small fish that's there. We get to work with really cool projects with our communications division. And you can see we've got a beehive suit and we're in our pollinator gardens. We're actually filming. So we get to do cool projects like that. Down on the bottom, we have our backwaters, and we actually do fish seining programs. And so we teach people how to take a net and kind of catch fish and identify fish, and do kayaking programs and canoeing programs. We have critter corners, and so we're educating on mammals and reptiles and all the different things that you can find at Ponca State Park on our trails. You can see my staff there for the expo. We have lots of really big events. Outdoor Missouri River Expo is a 2-day public event and a 1-day school event that brings nearly 40,000 people to the park. And we have a friend named Sasquatch that lives in Ponca State Park, and we move him every week and encourage people to come and take photos and do that kind of thing. So you can see the crew there taking the picture with Sasquatch. Some of my favorite things about Ponca State Park is just the beauty of the resource. We're right along the Missouri River. So we're on the 59-mile stretch of the river that has not been channelized. So it's as natural as it can be, back to the Lewis and Clark time. So we've got natural sandbars. It's very wide, and we're in the tri-state area. So you can see Iowa and South Dakota while you're standing in Nebraska. The bluffs just have this incredible sunset every night. It's a really great place to just take a walk in the morning or in the evenings. And it's a really special place. So I really enjoy that. And then just continuing on, like I said, other duties as assigned, right? So I might be mowing one day. I might be helping with housekeeping other days. I might be changing breakers out at the RV sites. We have 31 cabins that are open year round. And so if there's something going wrong in those cabins, you can find superintendents jumping in and helping there. We have to clean canoes and kayaks. It's just part of the job. And then, if we have floods, which I have not been at Ponca since flooding has affected the site, but there's big projects that we have to do in order, we work with FEMA and NEMA to get those things, back up. So if we lose part of our campground, or if there's roads that need to get fixed, we're working with those as well. Prescribed fire, we do a lot of prescribed fire at the park. So I have a red card and I can jump in and help on those fire and learn those skills. Chainsawing, there's lots of trees to either get cut down or help split firewood and do some of that restoration for the land and the natural resources. So again, lots and lots of different skills and duties that happen at the park. Insect identification and tree identification, all those little things that help with just the education aspect as well. So I talked to my staff a little bit yesterday, and they had some questions for me. And some of the things that they had was my motive and why I'm in the position that I'm in. And so that's a really good question, right? Because I have taken a little bit of this non-traditional path to get here. And for me, I think if I reflect back on everything that I've done, I think that I've always had a passion for being outdoors, and I've always had a passion for teaching people new things. And so I think it just took me a little bit longer to figure out where. I thought that I wanted to do that in the theater world, and then I thought that I wanted to do that in a religious studies world. And then living in cities most of my life, anytime I could get out of the city and into the wild, camping or canoeing or just into the mountains, I tried everything that I could to get there. And so it just took me a little bit longer to figure out that I wanted to be in outdoor education and not in education in another sense. And so I really enjoy just meeting new people, and we have new guests at the park every weekend, and I get to talk to them and hear their stories. And then you start talking to them more, and it's like, wow, we have so much in common, and it's such a small world. This person, or you grew up in this area too. And just making those connections, I think, is really important. And I think it's a driving factor into why I continue to do what I do. And then another question they had for me is kind of how I got my foot in the door. Because I didn't start at the bottom working, in maintenance at Mahoney State Park and then continue working my way up in the game and park system. I kind of walked in as a temporary superintendent and then continue to grow from there. So I'm definitely lucky in that sense, but I think a lot of how I got my foot in the door is just because I have a lot of interest and skills, and I'm eager to learn. Right? I have this theater leadership background, so a little bit of carpentry and a little bit of stage management and a little bit of all of those little skills that you learn in that field. And then I have, a random zip lining career. So I spent time talking to people and learning how to zip line and just engage people in something that a lot of people are afraid of doing, being tied up in the trees and then having to jump off of this platform where you're safe. You get to communicate with people in that way and help them with those fears. So, and then I'm on the fire department, and I just enjoy learning new skills and being able to bring that back to my position. And so, if you want your foot in the door, it's worth taking that chance. I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, didn't know a single person, and moved into a house with a bunch of people I had never known before and figured out a way to live with them for a year. And I learned a lot in that year, not to say that it was all fun and games. There were definitely challenges, but taking those risks are worth, that effort. So if you're getting your foot in the door that way, I think it shows people that you're willing to take that next step. And then the last question that my staff posed for me yesterday are, what are some things that get you noticed? So if you are starting out in the field and you are just trying to get noticed, whether it's your application or things like, or you yourself, I think having a strong work ethic and being willing to jump in and do just about anything. Something that's really important to me and that I try to remind myself very often is that I'm not going to ask my staff to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. So if that means that I'm out, picking up trash or cleaning pit toilets or, some of the dirtiest jobs that we have to do, I'll be right there with you doing it because I'm not going to ask you to do that if I'm not willing to do it myself. But, go and get certifications, go and learn new things and just, the more you can have on your resume, in my opinion, that diversify your skills. Again, I can do carpentry, I can do kayaking, I can go fight fires. There's lots of little things that are kind of just, most people think are random, but they're important to you as a whole. And so just getting those experiences and talking to new people and getting outside of your comfort zone and being able to talk about that, I think are things that really stick out to a lot of people, especially in the hiring world and trying to diversify and overcome challenges. As we've seen with COVID, I think that's a big change, right? We've had to adapt and be flexible in our workforce, and we just continue to learn new things. So those are some of the things that I have for you. So if you have any questions for me or things that you would like to ask me after I've just talked for a little while on that, but floor is open.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself or put them in the chat. I have a question for you, Katie.
Okay.
So how do you think so you're kind of a little bit different. You kind of mentioned this. So you are kind of oversee the education at Ponca State Park, but you also do a lot of the other superintendent duties. How many other people like you are there in Nebraska, or are there other people like you in Nebraska?
Yeah, that's a good question. So every park is a little bit different. So you might have your small historical sites, you might have your recreation areas, and then you have your state parks. And depending on your region and where you're at, there's going to be different skills and there's going to be different duties that happen at each of these parks. But as a whole, your superintendent is making sure that your day-to-day functions are working, right? Your roads are clear. You're taking care of that natural resource. You're taking care of your campgrounds or your cabins, and you're doing some kind of programming to get people to visit your park. And there's lots of things on the other side of that, working with other divisions and people to make all of that happen. But I think that if you talk to any superintendent across the state, you're going to find people that have come from a non-traditional background or have worked their way up, and that they do have this wide variety of skills. So I don't think that I'm alone in the fact that we all have a unique path of where we go and how we've gotten to where we're at. And I think if you talk to every superintendent in the state, they're going to say, oh yeah, I have this random skill and I have that random skill. And this is how it helps me get my day-to-day job done. Absolutely.
Cool. Well, kind of follow up then, how do you see your job like changing in the next 5 or 10 years? Do you think we're going to have, we only have so many parks, and I don't see us probably getting another major park in Nebraska for at least probably a long time, if ever. But is this a career that there are going to be a lot of new positions opening if someone wanted to be a superintendent, or what do you think in the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, I do. I think that even if we are not growing in the number of parks that we have and creating a new role for each of those parks, I think that within parks, right? So Ponca State Park is about 2,400 acres, 31 cabins, close to 100 campsites. We have a lot of things to continue growing here. And we have 3 superintendents to do that. So I think as we continue to see our other parks grow, we will also see more positions happening. So most parks will have a head superintendent and an assistant superintendent. And that is going to change, I think, as we realize that we have positions, right? So we're getting a little bit away from our skills like welding, some of our trades. And I think that we're going to see those some of maybe superintendent one positions opening up so that we can broaden their skill set, and they're doing a little bit more so that they can continue to grow to be up in the head superintendent position. So I do think there's going to be a lot of these positions for sure.
So it might be great then when you say, I know you said you didn't take a traditional path, but we need those people that didn't take that traditional path.
We do. And as these career chats, Monica, that you've been doing have shown, right? If you have an interest in film, there's a spot for you in the communications division. You know, if you have an interest in restoration, you know, there's a position for you in wildlife. So no matter what your interests are, there's an opportunity for it. Mahoney State Park does theater, right? So there's, no matter what your interest is, there is a spot for you in game and parks.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Katie, is there anything else that you really want to talk about or anything that we missed? This is like your soapbox time or anything like that?
No, I think that I've done a decent job of sharing at least a little bit of what I do and how I got here. So again, just super important that people remember you don't have to, you know, start out at 5 years old knowing that you want to be, you know, a superintendent, but that the opportunities are there. And if you have a good work ethic and you try really hard, you can definitely get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if there's nothing else, I don't see any questions or anything in the chat, and I don't want to exhaust you here. So thank you for being on today. And this was some good information. So it's always cool to see, like you said, the different careers that we had. Like I've not heard the same thing from every single person. Everything is different, and their path that they took and the skills that they have and what they do on a daily basis is so different. So this was awesome.
Well, thanks so much for putting these on, Monica.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. And if anyone else has any questions, if you want Katie's email address, if she would like to answer any questions, if that would be okay, if I could share that.
Absolutely.
In the chat really fast with everybody. So I think Sarah might have it, but I'm not sure if everyone else would. So, all right, awesome. Well, thank you everyone again for joining us. This will be posted, probably give us like 24 hours. It will be on our education YouTube channel, and we will put those with the rest of them. And we have one left in November. We'll be in December. Gosh, we'll be talking with Sam Wilson, who is our Fur Bear program manager. So awesome. Thank you, Katie. Have a good day.